Hi and welcome to episode number 82 of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast, the show where I talk to introverts who grow their business and make a difference. I'm Sarah Croce, and so happy that you're here spending this time with me for another episode. Before I share today's interview with you, I wanted to give you an update on the Gentle Business Revolution. I've been working relentlessly on finalizing the Gentle Business Manifesto, and I'm now ready to share it unofficially with you guys. I haven't really done any other social sharing, but I thought I'd share it first on the podcast. I'm so grateful to my son Simon and to my friend Dominic for turning my text, my manifesto, into a work of art. It's just simply beautiful. And I'd love for you to join me in this revolution and download the manifesto. You can go over to theGentleBusinessRevolution.com, and it's an instant download, a PDF, no opt-in required. So again, theGentleBusinessRevolution.com. You're the first ones to see it, so if you feel inclined to give me feedback, I'd really welcome that. You can just write to me at sarah@sarahsanacroce.com, and I can't wait to hear from you. And now on to today's conversation with Kate. Kate Boyd is the founder and launch strategist at Cobblestone Creative. After raising 7 figures in revenue for a nonprofit organization through powerful messaging, copywriting, and marketing, Kate started her own business, Cobblestone Creative Co., to focus on bringing more creativity and genuine connection to the digital marketing space. In the 3 years since, she has built 3 profitable online businesses and created live and automated marketing and sales experiences that convert up to 5 times the normal rates. Kate developed her signature system, Conversion with Compassion, to help solopreneurs use human-driven communication and behavior-based targeting to get the right message to the right people at the right time in order to create conversion opportunities. This method focuses on high conversion rates that can effectively leverage audiences, large or small. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Kate. How are you, Kate?
I'm well, thank you.
So good to have you. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with fellow introverts about your journey and your story. I just read the official bio, right, in the intro. And what I'm interested in, because we don't always necessarily mention that we're introverts on our website or in our bios. So I want you to give us the story, your bio, but for introverts. So how did you start your business, and how that all, the whole being an introvert, how did that play into your story and your business?
Yeah. So, the story of this business really goes back several years to another business that I had started. My first foray into the internet marketing world was through a blog about cheerleading. And I helped coach cheerleading coaches through the blog posts that I did, and then eventually turned that into, a business with products and so on and so forth. And then that eventually morphed into, having the business that I have now where I do marketing for people. But I think the introversion part really came from, I've always sort of processed things in writing. I don't know that that's specifically introverted, but it's also sort of a gifting of mine. But as an internal processor, like most of us are, it always helped me to get things out on a paper or to do them in writing versus talking to other people or being around. And so I had also, spent much of my life as a quiet person, observing people, taking note of things. And so it really helped me to be a good cheerleading coach, which I was in the real world, and then take what I had learned and be able to communicate that and break it down for other people. And then eventually it just sort of morphed into being able to do that across a bunch of other different industries and niches and all those different things. And, building my business through the deep relationships that I had with people in various corners of the internet and, leaning on those things like communicating what I can do, observing what really works for people, and then of course doing events or, networking with people in my own way as an introvert, in a deeper way versus going to all the big events or joining all the programs, and instead finding a way to leverage my strengths as an introvert and to turn that into clients and customers and even help my own business and the way that I'm able to help other people in their businesses.
Right. And I am looking at your bio again, and what really stood out to me is this conversion with compassion. So that's the name of your signature system, right? Tell us more about that and how you currently generate revenue in your business.
Yeah, I've got two main revenue streams. One is my done for you services, and one is my course, which is also called Conversion with Compassion. And really the idea is that there's a lot of get rich quick or employ this tactic or that tactic. And some of them are pushy, some of them aren't pushy, some of them feel fake or, not in full integrity. But really what the internet was made for was to connect people, to connect ideas. And what we've done with things like social media and everything and email, rather than use them as connection tools, we've used them as broadcast tools, but really they're made to help us build relationships. Mm-hmm. And so when we go to launch things, which is what I help people do, people are employing all these things and just sort of like get a bunch of people in, broadcast to them, and then the small, tiny piece of the people watching will join whatever it is that you have for them to join. Well, I approach it a different way. Instead, we look at it and go, okay, how can we get people in earlier? What are the things we need to do to build a relationship with them? And then once we're ready to turn on the actual conversion piece of the launch, there are more people who are ready, more people who trust, and my clients get better results in their launches because of it. So it's more of like a longer approach. I'm like 3 months is not long term by any means, but it's sort of a different way of looking at it that says, actually, let's help our people. Let's focus on people. Let's get to know our people. Let's do all the shifting that needs to happen for a person to shift before they're ready for our thing so that they're ready for our thing, instead of just scooping a whole bunch of people in and then just getting a handful of them who are ready. Instead, we take the time to get them ready.
And you're right. Nobody wants to take the time anymore, right? So
totally.
This thing is like, this huge launch schedule. I'm like launching all these things every year. And so, there's a very few people who actually want to slow down and take the time. Just the word launch, I guess it's like, you want to just, you think of launching a rocket. Well, it's immediate, right? Well, and I totally agree with you that we kind of almost like we spent all these years building these bad habits where people almost don't know how it could work otherwise ananymore. Mm-hmm. Like, to give you an example, what I did for my latest launch, and I don't use the word launch anymore because it could just give me goosebumps. But what I did is instead of creating a webinar, I just said, let's get on a Zoom call, right? And then, I put all these reminders and pop-ups saying, this is going to be a live Zoom call. You're going to be on camera. We're going to have a human conversation between human beings. And people were just kind of like, really? What do you mean? We're going to see each other? And this is kind of awkward. And so it's funny how we almost train people to just have these webinars where they sign up and don't show up live and then just watch the recording and then, obviously never sign up for the program. So I found it interesting to see that there's almost reluctance to the different approach.
Yeah, I think there is and there isn't. I think what I've seen is people like being able to sort of launch whenever they want, or they like just sort of the idea of getting that quick cash flow. So they just sort of like follow the normal things. The problem is people know what the normal things are now. Even the earliest, even people who are outside of this internet marketing, make money online bubble are aware of a lot of the tactics that happen. Mm-hmm. And are picking up on things and are showing up to things. So you're actually starting to see that what was effective because nobody knew any different, it was just how it was done, isn't working anymore. And so instead you need, an ecosystem of marketing in your business that gives the value, that shifts the beliefs, that builds trust in all of those things so that, when you're ready to launch, people are ready and waiting for you. But a lot of times we focus so much on the launch vehicle itself that we forget that, and then we get mad, right, at our audience for not buying the thing that we have, but we didn't do our due diligence to build that relationship in a way that made sense. Now, there are some people who are doing great things in building a relationship, but they're not doing it to a specific purpose, right, to actually get them ready to get the thing that you want, which is actually for them to purchase. But really, the thing that they purchase is to help them be better at their life or in some area, right? So we're actually like holding ourselves back from helping as many people as we can by using the broken systems that we've been using. And it's not that these things are bad in themselves. It's just that we've sort of isolated them rather than looking at everything as a more complex system in which, there are other things that need to happen besides just that one conversion moment,
Right. Yeah, it's building this trust over time. But the other point you made, I think, is that they're smarter now. So if you're going to pretend that you're running a live webinar when it actually is recorded, people are going to know that you can't trick them anymore. And, and it's a good thing, because I cannot stand these webinars where they're like all this rah, oh, look at all these comments coming in and all these people. And you just know that there's probably like 5 people on the live call. So
for sure, especially when you're able to choose from, 3 times in the next half hour, like that just doesn't make sense. You're not hosting 3 webinars at the same time. We're smarter than that, and people aren't giving us credit.
Yeah. Wow. So what would you say in the work that you do with your clients, what would you say is your number one introverted superpower?
I think my introverted superpower is being able to sit back and listen. And as I do that, I'm able then to connect dots for them that they hadn't previously seen, whether that's in their program or in the way that we market or launch it or all these other things, or even just some insight about themselves. So my ability to just sort of like listen has been really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of introverts say that listening is one of their skills, but I think it's more than just listening. I like to call it active listening, right? Because one can listen, but then it just kind of absorbs. But what's really powerful is the active listening, where you absorb it all and then your mind kind of creates this picture and then gives advice or whatever suggestions accordingly to what you just heard. I think that's definitely key to make that distinction. What would you say then is still challenging for you running this business as an introvert?
I think, especially for myself as a marketer, I have a hard time sometimes getting out to market myself. It's a lot easier as an introvert and as a person who really loves doing projects behind the scenes to, step out and be the face of my company all the time. And so sometimes I find myself burying myself in learning or projects versus sending podcast interview requests, and showing up to those things can sometimes be hard because I just kind of want to be behind my laptop and do all of that all the time,
Yeah. So you really have to walk your talk also for your clients, because you're kind of helping them to build these relationships. But then at the same time, you have to do it yourself, right?
Yes.
That's one of the biggest things I had to learn as well. Is it's one thing to get on a podcast conversation with someone. The focus I want to give it this year is to maintain this relationship that you have started with this guest, like you and I. We have a lot of things in common. We seem to share similar points of views. Well, why just say, oh, we spent half hour together and that's it? Why not invest in this relationship and see if there's things we can do together? But it takes effort to do that, right? It's like,
yes,
yeah. And then you're like, well, I don't know, maybe she's not interested. Or we always come up with any kind of excuse to just, stay in our little home office, as you say. Yeah, so true. So take me to an aha moment, a time where this light bulb went up and you're just have this realization, maybe in business or in life.
I think for me, as a person who thinks a lot and likes to learn a lot. I put a lot of like noise and input in my life. I don't know if everyone does that, but I certainly do. I don't like silence and, and not having things coming in. And I just generally love learning things. But I was realizing, gosh, it was probably at some point last year that I was doing that as a way to sort of like hide, as maybe like validation, right, for my own area of expertise. I was instead like learning from all these people who are brilliant people, but realizing like that I actually knew a lot of this stuff. They had just packaged it in a different way. And so it's been really interesting over this last year to really rely on my own intelligence and skills and package them in my own way for other people. And I'm trying to think of what the exact aha moment was for that, but it was probably one of those things where I had purchased another course or something and I had read through everything and I was like, oh, actually I knew all of that. You get to the end and you're like, oh, why did I do that? And I think we do that sometimes as gifted people because something comes so easily to us that we feel like there has to be something that we're missing, or we don't want to be left out. We want the magic bullet, or we want something else, or we focus on, because we know that the thing that we do is so important, we focus a lot on that for ourselves too, instead of like actually filling in gaps that we might have in other places. And so I was like, I'm actually not going to do that anymore. And it's been really freeing and fun to explore that and say, you know what, I'm not going to dive into all of these things. I'm instead going to rely on myself and find support in other ways, like bringing on team members for different things to fill the gaps, that I would rather fill or needed filled versus the ones that I thought I needed to fill when I actually didn't.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. What comes up for me is, kind of like a self-help junkie who keeps, reading more books about self-help and going to all these courses and retreats, but then never actually doing the work on themselves. So it's almost like you're trying to find a way out rather than just sitting down and saying, I got this. I just need to look at it. And for you, it was like, well, I know all of this. I just kind of need to put it into different packages or put it out there and realize that I'm going to do it my way. And that might be slightly different from others, but I don't need, or very different, but I don't need to compare it always to what other people are putting out there, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so glad that you came to this aha moment because something similar has happened to me. And it's just, that's when it all comes together. You're like, wow, I actually, I no longer need to always compare to others. I do it my way. So I think that is a great aha moment. Thanks for sharing that. What would you share if you had to pick one personal habit, something that you do on a regular basis that contributes to your success?
I think it's a couple of things, or it's really just sort of the morning routine that I have, which is, get up and make some coffee, and then I sit down and do morning pages. So I just free write for about 3 pages, and then, take some time to do some quiet time and reading and learning and meditate and do like the mindset work in the morning to really ground myself. And I think having that as a consistent thing that I do has been really helpful.
Yeah, that's what most, I wouldn't say successful people, but most people who have this routine down, they really feel grounded and they feel like they handle the ups and downs better, right?
Yeah.
Success, I stopped referring to successful people because it depends, successful people doesn't just mean people who, have so and so many zeros next to their revenue. It's just everybody has their own definition of success.
For sure.
But people who have this routine, they just handle the ups and downs better. And, we all know how many ups and downs there are in entrepreneurship. So, yeah. Great.
Yes,
what about an internet resource, something that you use online that you would like to share?
I mean, this probably isn't anything new, but I love G Suite and Google Docs and all of those things, not just for, I can easily share things with clients and we can go back and forth on edits and ideas inside a Google Doc. But I have also started using it in my course too for templates and notes and all these other things, just because it's so easy to work in and make a copy of, and, for them to like make copies of and then go back and process things. So for me, having that and being able to access it on my phone or anywhere that I have Google Drive has been really, really helpful, especially, as I mentioned, as I've been bringing on team members and things like that, we can more easily communicate and share things. And it's been really helpful.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes it's the basics that we actually disregard because it's just like so obvious almost that you don't take the time to actually figure out all the things that are possible. Like, for example, I love my canned responses in Gmail. I don't know what I would do without them. And I'm surprised that so many people don't know about them. So definitely agree with love my G Suite for sure. What about a book that you would recommend and why?
I always recommend to everyone Essentialism.
Ooh, that's my favorite too.
Yeah. It was actually the book that helped me sort of leave my job and end up, doing a business full time. But I think the concept, even so, whether it's in business or life, being able to simplify and strip down to just the basics so that you can operate at a higher potential, or so that you can help more people or make it more easy to communicate. So I do that a lot with clients and helping them shift things around. And for me, it's really like an essentialist mindset approach to business. It's going like, what's the one thing that we can really leverage? But even in my life, trying to like slim down the buckets and the roles that I have so that I can be more fulfilled and happy and still fulfill the purposes that I'm here for in the best way. And so Essentialism was a game changer for me, for sure. As someone who loves to achieve and do all the time, doing that across multiple buckets wasn't helping me or other people. And so it was really helpful in that.
Yeah. It's the one book that I always recommend and send to my VIP clients. And on my website, my giveaway for introverts is actually a guide to say no. Because, it's funny because oftentimes we hear you should say yes to more opportunities and, always say yes. And that might work for some people because they're not saying yes enough. But for me, it was actually, start to learn to say no to more things and focus on the essentials. And I'm so blessed now that I prioritize things like on Monday, 2 p.m., I go walking with my friend for an hour every week. And, that's essential and it has its own place in my calendar and I won't move it. And things like that just make you realize what really matters. And I think that's where the definition of success comes in again as well. Like what matters to you? And that's what you need to prioritize, right? And so highly recommend to the community to read Essentialism as well. Yeah, we'll mention it again in the show notes. Thank you for bringing that up. And I'm so happy to have you mention it. It just, again, shows that, we kind of have the same values because it's what matters that will make your business a healthy business. Because if you are like a lot of introverts, you're a giver, right? And so what happened to me is I got into this over-giving burnout and it just kept giving and, giving my time and giving my knowledge and didn't want to disappoint anyone. And so when I read Essentialism a few years ago, and I keep reading it over and over again, but when I read it the first time, like, oh, wow, I can actually say no, and it's going to be okay. So
and it'll actually be better for everyone involved.
Exactly. Yeah. Great. We're almost coming to the end, but I have 2 more questions for you. The first one is about marketing with integrity. So what does that mean to you? Like, how do you apply this in your business?
In a lot of ways, I think marketing with integrity to me is doing what you say you will do. It's giving before asking to receive. It's really the core of what I teach, right? Which is to build relationships with your audience in specific ways, set yourself up in that way to be a touch point of trust for them. And then it's easy to sell and it's easy to do those things because you've done your due diligence on the front end. And so that's really what it means to me, is making sure that I'm giving and talking to them and being around and starting conversations and helping them through things that's helpful for them. So the marketing doesn't feel bad for either of us because it's really based on helping people be the best version of themselves, whether that's in their business or their life, which I think sort of applies to everyone who's marketing something.
Yeah. Yeah. It needs to feel good. And that, I think that really resonates with introverts, maybe not just introverts, but just conscious entrepreneurs in general, that they will feel like they're acting out of integrity if they're trying to sell without giving value first, because that just doesn't feel good. And that's what integrity is all about. So,
yes.
Yeah, thank you. What would you say if I asked you what you're grateful for today or this week, Kate?
I am grateful that it has been so warm and sunny this week here in Texas. It's been really nice to be able to sit back on my back porch again, and work or hang out in the evenings. So I'm really grateful for that.
That's great. Did you have a rough winter?
It really wasn't that bad. I mean, we had a relatively mild winter here, but it's still nice to have the sun out and it be 70, 80 degrees again.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on to my show and sharing with fellow introverts. I really enjoyed our conversation and I'd love to stay in touch.
Yes.
That's it for this episode of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. Please take a moment to check out Kate's website at cobblestonecreativeco.com. You'll find this episode's show notes at sarahsanacroce.com/episode 82. And if you're listening to this show on a mobile device, you can click on the description and you'll actually find all the clickable links in there. This is Sarah Sanacroce signing off from the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. Remember, you need to use your unique introverted superpowers in order to make a difference. Speak soon.